Welcome to the Biz and Mayhem podcast, where we talk about the mayhem in our lives and how to get ahead in business and your career. This is Chris Batchelor, and I'm here with my co-host, Tara Parker. Let's get started. Well, welcome everyone to episode 23 of the Biz and Mayhem podcast. We're now in season 2. How are you doing today, Tara?
I'm gaining. I'm always gaining. Getting better.
Yeah, you're not sounding too hot here. You're not. You don't have your normal voice. What's going on?
Well, anybody else would say I'd have COVID. I would say that I had a cold that turned into laryngitis, which is normal for me every bloody year. I thought I was free of it this year. I was wrong. This normally happens in November. Chris, you've seen this. Normally I'll get laryngitis all winter long, but man, I got hit 2 months late. So we're dealing. We're baby in my throat. So it'll be okay.
Well, we hope you get better, and but for now we're just going to make fun of you because of the way you sound. That's
Most people get excited when I have laryngitis because it means I have no voice. So it means you guys don't have to listen to me. So typically this is a celebratory event.
Are you telling me I'm going to have to carry all the weight tonight?
Oh no, I will find a way to be heard. You know how I am. If I got something to say, we're going to hear it.
Well, despite all the time I like to not talk about politics, it seems like tonight's going to be a show that we talk a lot about politics, which I think that'll make you pretty happy, won't it?
Oh, I'm so excited. So excited.
So let's get to the first topic here, and I put this on here with the heading of the best at being impeached, because Trump always gets made fun of for being the best of everything. We're going to have the best. It's going to be beautiful, right? Well, so he is the best at being impeached because he's now the only president who's been impeached twice. And I thought we'd kick it off with that. And I've got a couple other topics here on, the Capitol and events that have happened in the Capitol. But, what's your take on this? Have you gotten to read what's happened?
Well, I've been watching a lot of Fox News because I can't stomach much of anything else. They'll at least try to show both sides of a story. But so, yeah, I don't know if I agree with this impeachment process. For one, the dude is a week away from stepping down anyway. Why the hell are we going to waste taxpayer money to say he was wrong officially? I mean, did he? I don't know if I didn't see all the rhetoric prior to the little gang up at Capitol Hill last week. But what I do know, as I specifically remember, Kamala. Let's make sure we say that correctly because we know everybody's got an issue with that. I do remember Kamala Harris saying, in reference to all of the protests that have gone down this last year with the fires, the deaths, the beating down of other people. And she's sitting there saying, let them do it. Let them have their say. In fact, she said to encourage them. And if I can find the snippet, I can show it to you. And here we're going to impeach a dude that's out of office in 6 days. I don't get it. I mean, other than the fact they don't want to see him back in any office ever again. I get that. But I mean, come on, where was?
Well, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head Trump there. I mean, this is not about kicking him out of office per se. This is about ensuring that he can't run again in 4 years, right? I mean, this is politically, this is silencing a political foe, right?
Right.
I mean, this is the kind of stuff you read about in books and that happen in other countries and not here in America. I mean, this is crazy talk.
Well, it goes to show how scary is this guy to the other politicians that they're willing to make sure he can't hold another office ever again. That's the message that this group is sending me, whether they be Democrats, Republicans, I don't care what their affiliations are. They're trying to say that this dude's too powerful to be in office. Like, we can't control him. We got to make sure he can't have the space again. That is what this is telling me. And it's like, you know what? Let's embrace the fact that, well, gag me, Biden is in the office. Cool. Okay, let's go for it. Let's see what this man can do since he's there. Stop focusing on Trump. I mean, he's a narcissist. He's an attention whore. You're feeding the damn beast. Stop it. So and I agree. We had somebody that just chimed in. Amity just said it's about setting precedent, showing what is unacceptable. So, and I agree. It's shenanigans. It's just hashtag shenanigans.
Well, for me, though, I mean, if we're going to set precedents here, then there's a whole bunch of other politicians that need to be impeached, right? And including a bunch of the politicians that are on the Democratic side. I mean,
Mm,
you've got Maxine Walters who's incited violence. You've got AOC who said things that, I mean, you had all these Democrats trying to get people riled up to go harass Republicans in restaurants and things like that. I
right.
mean, this is crazy. This is a classic double standard. Like we talked last week. This is it's going to be convenient for whoever it is, right? We're going to make up the rules to be convenient for us, and I don't agree with it at all. I mean, they spent less than 2 hours debating this impeachment thing. I mean, this was rushed through. This is probably, I mean, we'd have to go back and look in history, but this is probably the fastest impeachment ever.
Yeah.
And I think the
They
only
skipped
reason
some
they're
steps.
yeah, and
They've
the
skipped
only
some
reason they're
steps.
really doing this is to try and make sure that he can't hold office again in four
Right.
years. But then now we're going to go spend money on a trial in the Senate to see whether they're gonna implicate him or if they're gonna throw it out again.
Right.
And
And that won't
so
be done until after he's out of office. He will have relieved his position before they can follow suit. They won't get this done by the time his office is expired. Biden will be in office and that's what's going to be setting the precedents. They've never done it for somebody who's out of office. And it's like, is he that important to you guys? You guys just can't let it go. And I don't remember the name. I can't recall if we talked about it on the show. There was one political representative somewhere, and I believe it was a black lady who said, make the MAGA supporters or the Trump supporters pay. Make them pay. It's like, does that not incite some sort of violent conflict right there? And why is no? She was, I think, her duties or her responsibilities, or she was somehow chastised for it, and she was
This is a
disrobed of
real
her
B&H.
responsibilities. But yeah, I don't think he can be held totally accountable for what happened last week. But his rhetoric hasn't changed in the last 4 years. And it's just now they're wanting to hold him accountable for it. I don't know. I'm not. Let
well,
it
and
go.
not
Let's
only
see what
has
Biden can do.
his rhetoric not changed. I mean, the Democratic side hasn't changed at all. I mean, it's not like you can go back and look at all the Democrats and say, oh, they've for nothing, for the last 4 years have said, oh, we need to do this peacefully. No, they've actually explicitly, tried to incite violence. And now they're wanting to call Trump on it. I mean, to me, this is like, well, if you're going to call him on it, then we need to line everybody else up,
Yeah.
and they need to be judged the same, right? I mean, you need to have,
Yeah.
I mean, hundreds of impeachment trials now for these representatives that, have not acted so great over the last 4 years. And somehow we're going to go and impeach somebody that's already effectively out of office, right? But we're not going to go back and hold these other people responsible. That's the thing that just
Right.
irks me, makes me so mad that, again, it's, no accountability, but we'll use
Right.
accountability when it's convenient for us, right? And,
Well,
and that's
yeah.
no way to run a country at all.
No,
It's
you're not
not
going
a,
to get unity. It's one thing to say get him out of office versus let's prevent him from establishing office again. But uh, it's just so sad to see that the politicians are pushing the division the way that they are, because that is what this is doing. And so many people that I've seen come on to Fox News, and again, that's all I'm watching because that's all I can stomach to watch, are saying the same thing. This is not how you unify a country at all. This is not how you get two sides to come to an agreement of let's move forward together. This is a great way to say, F you, this is not the way I want to see this done. So it's if you're looking for further division, you got it.
yeah, I agree. It's awful. And have you seen the next headline here? This PBS lawyer schmuck who I guess now has gotten fired, but I'll bring this up here. This
No,
is a
let's
PBS
see
lawyer
this.
suggested sending children of Trump voters to re-education camps where they watch PBS all day. And he
What?
also suggested that they would throw Molotov cocktails at the White House if Trump won re-election. I mean, this is just
That's not
banana
even
pants.
Trump.
This is
That's
this
inciting
is just
violence.
yes, this is inciting violence. Why is this the guy not getting going up and getting on trial for for
Wow.
endangering the public? So I guess the story goes this guy was at dinner with a journalist who is with this project. Who's basically the project is exposing bad actors, right?
Right.
And they got him to say this, and it was recorded on camera. And it was kind of like a hidden camera deal, but still, I mean, somebody
Whoa.
shouldn't be saying these things. But apparently this got leaked out, and then PBS fired this lawyer who was, some sort of mid-level lawyer, apparently, is what the article says. So, but to me, I mean, This is the kind of thing that is just unacceptable, and it's accepted if you're on the left, and they're going to try and not accept it if it's on the right. But the other thing that we didn't really talk about the violence in DC was, there's pretty strong evidence now that violence really wasn't by Trump supporters. It was by all these other groups that were there, to with Trump hats on. They were just trying to look like Trump supporters. And so you got to trace the money back. Where, did those people
Yeah.
just show up on their own? Did they get, were they paid to be there? I mean, these are the kind of things that need to be investigated. And
Right.
sadly, I don't think we're going to get answers to that.
No, any more than the answers we got to the previous protests of the last year or two. Nobody knows who started those. I mean, BLM and Antifa have been invited to be the shareholders for that one entirely, but you never know. Yeah, it's never just one entire group. There's always little sneaky weasels that find their way in there and hide as something else for their own specific purposes. They may not even have a political narrative involved in it, but man, this just, and it's amazing because I haven't heard about this, but I hadn't seen Hannity for the last couple of days due to me trying to be sick the right way.
Trying to be sick the right way.
Trying to lay still and just be ill.
Yeah, in
So I
fact,
hadn't even.
I mean, just to go back to the violence in DC, I mean, I was watching a Facebook feed from somebody that I know through the shared parenting work, and he was actually at the Capitol building when that whole thing went down, where they breached and I mean, he was
Oh,
kind of front
wow.
and center, and he got on Facebook Live and explained, hey, there were these protesters there and they started breaking stuff, and everybody was like, no, that's not how we are, don't break things. And then he said he observed, people that were not Trump supporters, that were Antifa or QAnon or whatever they are, and they would run down the street and steal a hat and a flag of actual Trump supporters, and then they could go to the rally now looking like Trump supporters. So that's why I say, this whole thing needs to be investigated, and some of the players we'll talk about a little bit later in the show, definitely aren't Trump supporters and were there on very public display. But they're being lumped in as Trump supporters just maybe because they got a hat or whatever that says Trump on it. So, I
Well,
mean,
and
I
I, but
think
I, at the same time, I have no doubt there are some violent Trump supporters out there who are not afraid to extend their physical strength to prove a point. So I don't think it's an all or nothing situation, but I don't think grouping us all up as one giant um, violent group, which is what some individuals have done out there in the political scene, saying that anybody who voted for Trump is a member of that group that rioted the Capitol Hill last week. I don't think that's right. It's not. It's never an all or nothing thing. There's always case by case situations. Some of them were MAGA supporters. Some of them are violent. Some are not. Some of them are not supporters. Some are just trying to um, kind of get their way in there. But in my opinion, and this isn't going to be a popular one, but I still think that the Capitol Hill was the best planned invasion since Normandy at this rate. It just looks too
yeah,
neat and clean, and Biden came in too fast with his speech, and Biden never speaks eloquently ever. He always trips up, and this it just looked way too rehearsed. So I don't know. This is just it's just insanity. This is not, and I've seen this. Have you seen on news reports where it's been compared to 9/11 in terms of this is why we should be unified because of this? And it's like, are you kidding? Really?
yeah,
I don't.
I don't agree with that at all. I mean, I agree with you though. I think there's bad actors on both sides of the aisle here.
Oh yeah.
But for me, they're impeaching Trump because these bad actors created, storm the Capitol as violence or whatever. And I think it's more planned than that. I think that those people were there intentionally to cause problems, and they weren't there to necessarily have their voices heard, for election fraud. And
Yeah.
I mean, they were there to cause problems, and so it remains to be seen. I think there needs to be a whole lot of investigating going on.
Oh yeah.
Sadly, I don't think we'll get it because of the Democrats coming in don't want to uncover anything that may have been going on that was shady, right?
Right.
And so
Right.
I think it is what it is, but. I think there's, let's take a look at the next article here. This is
The bighorn
remember
dude.
the bighorn dude? Remember this guy? Well, so
He
somebody put,
shows up everywhere. It's like that one
yeah.
kid that's in every school shooting. He just shows up everywhere.
So yeah, I mean, he showed up at other BLM things and all that, and very recognizable. I mean, it's not like he was being an imposter of somebody else. I mean, this guy was, you can pick him out from 10 miles away with these big horns,
Yeah, you can.
but this is an article from the Daily Mail from the UK, and basically, he's 33 years old with no job, lives with his mom. He's got a car that has all these, basically extremist type views on it.
Nice.
And so, the question is, did somebody pay him to go there? Maybe not, but he's not a die in the wool MAGA person. You're right,
Right.
Trump supporters. So I don't know. I think this is one of those things where you got to take all this stuff with a grain of salt and remember that the media is going to manipulate these messages to fit
Oh.
whatever narrative that they're trying to sell.
And I can actually attest to that from a personal standpoint. I had a brother-in-law during my first marriage that passed away in the war, Iraqi freedom. And for some dumb reason, a member of the family thought it'd be wise to call the news. So I'm the one who called the news to say, hey, let's have a discussion, let's interview or whatever, because this is a big thing. You interviewed all the families who were losing soldiers in the war. And we were up in Salina at the time, and so the news from Wichita was heading up our way. And another member of the family's like, don't do it, don't talk to them. I have experience with them, do not talk to them. I'm like, okay, so I called the news up. I'm like, go home. They're like, but we're on our way. I'm like, no, that's tough. Just go home. Well, they liked the ideas so much, and Wichita has so few stories, they went and investigated it anyway. And everything they printed was wrong. From
Yeah.
where he was born to where he graduated to everything about him was wrong. And we're just like, you know what? There's no point in us trying to go in and correct this. They're the media. Everybody's going to be all about it. But it was just like, from that point, it's like, you guys are just story hounds. Like, you don't care what the true story is. You want something that feeds your they're looking for what is it? They're looking for viewers. It's the ratings. They need the ratings just like any other show on primetime does. So it's I don't know. And then this guy shows up everywhere. This bighorn dude shows up in everything that seems to be happening politically. So you got to kind of wonder,
Well,
what's
yeah, and it wasn't just this one dude, right? I mean, there were other people that were recognized from other protests that were not MAGA supporters, right?
right.
So, I mean, I think whether these are people that just want their 5 minutes of fame, or if there's some other reason that they were there, they were wanted to intentionally cause trouble
Yeah.
for whatever reason. But I mean, it is kind of fishy that the Democrats rushed through these articles of impeachment based on this violence that was perpetrated by, people that weren't necessarily there for the reasons
Right.
that Trump told people to be there for.
Yeah.
So it does kind of raise some suspicion. Can't talk tonight.
Try to say that again.
So
Say that again.
suspicion. But yeah, I mean, it
Suspicion.
does kind of make you wonder. And sadly, I don't think, like I said, I don't think we'll ever know because it won't be
Yeah.
properly investigated.
No,
They won't follow all the leads down. But
I
I
don't think
mean,
so either.
basically, I think the message, the takeaway here is, don't believe the media, and because what they were reporting was not necessarily what was actually happening
I agree.
there to some extent. So, yeah, and then Trump's had quite a week here. Next story up is Facebook, of course, has blocked Trump, and now since we pulled this article, there's been a whole bunch of other things like
Oh,
Parler's now off of Amazon, and Twitter is blocked Trump as well. So basically, he's really got no he's got no mass way to connect with people except maybe for sending emails out from his campaign, right? I mean, you really haven't heard from him. He did do one video that was on mainstream media, telling people not to be violent, but other
yeah.
than that, we really haven't heard from Trump like we normally would, especially this time of year.
Right. I mean, I'm not, this is a slippery slope. If, can Facebook suspend his account? Can Twitter suspend his account? Can YouTube, all those guys? Yeah, they run their own businesses, and I believe in free enterprise. However, I also believe you earn the business that you yield, or you yield the business that you earn. And so if and I take this back to an example of the cake makers back in Colorado. They didn't want to make the cake for the gay dudes because they're Christian views. And everybody got pissed and wanted them to make the cake. And in my opinion, it's like, no, they cannot make the cake, and they can also not get the business from the gay community. And so it's like, yeah, they can turn him down, but at the same time, yeah, you kind of look like asshats if you don't turn down everybody that acts like that. I've seen the Twitters and the Facebook posts about hanging Mike Pence. And I remember when Kathy Griffin made that disturbing picture of her with Trump's decapitated head and a knife in her hand. And somehow that cancel culture didn't hit her near as hard as when Roseanne Barr made the one comment about the black lady. And so it's not consistent for both sides. And that's my problem is you want to show that you're a company of integrity and transparency. Be consistent on both sides, not just one. If you're looking to just really appeal to that one population, that one market, that's fine. But you wait because Trump's got the money to back somebody else up to do something like Parler, and I don't think he's afraid to do it because I think they've got him in just the position where he's going to be the next investor for the next big social media complex because there's 74
Yeah,
million Trump
he's
supporters out
already
there.
talked about going and starting up his own, media company, so some kind of a competitor
And
to CNN and Fox and all those. So
I mean,
I can
he'll have a
totally,
broadcasting company before too long.
yeah, I can totally see him doing that, or maybe buying out CNN would be the thing that would make the most sense at this point because they're up for sale, and
Yeah.
they're relatively cheap for what you would get. I mean,
Well, but that's a
you know,
purchase that would have to be approved by the federal government, though. So it would be unlikely he'd get that one. But he could just start up his own, like Oprah Winfrey did. He just started up from the ground up, and and that way he'd have all the rights and ownership, and he wouldn't be regulated. Or the regulation would be minimized because the federal government wouldn't be involved at that point. So I think it's one of those things. It's like you really don't want to upset this kind of beast because he's got unlimited funds to do whatever he freaking wants to do. So
yeah, I'm
just
with you. I think there's definitely something coming from Trump in the private sector here, and I think
mm-hmm.
it's just kind of prime for it. But getting back to the whole tech giant having too much control, I mean, it really has shined a very bright light on how much control the tech moguls have on our daily lives. I mean, they were able to pull Parler with, I mean, basically in an
Hours.
instant, in hours.
Yeah,
They
hours.
didn't, their contract said 30 days. They just basically pulled them within 30 hours, is what I read.
Yeah, you know how they
But
found out? You know how Parler found out they're being pulled?
no, how,
BuzzFeed.com. So they weren't even
right.
told by Amazon. They didn't get a formal communication. They found out through social media, through mainstream media, through internet media. BuzzFeed.com is how they found out that they were getting pulled. That's how they found out they were going down. And it's like,
Yeah, and
you
then
know
that's
what?
that's crazy. I mean, but I mean, worse than that. Again, we're going back to the double standards that we've been talking
Yep.
about on so much of this stuff. So they pulled Parler for these disturbing posts that supposedly Parler wasn't pulling down. Okay, fine, but guess what? Apparently, a large portion of Twitter is hosted on AWS as well, and
Yep.
there's just as disturbing things on Twitter as well. But nobody's pulling Twitter down,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And Facebook, I mean, Facebook moderates a lot of their content and maybe over moderate sometimes.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think
Well,
you can
there's
definitely find lots of examples of the double standard.
Well, Twitter is suspending multiple millions of accounts. There's somebody at Topeka that I know as an acquaintance. They're a good friend of my brother's up there. He's like a DJ personality. He's a personality type on the media style. And something he said on Twitter got his account suspended entirely. And it's like, really? And I don't even know what the view was. I don't know what happened exactly, but I know the kind of people my brother hangs out with, and so he's going to be the conservative type, but he's also an open-minded dude. Um, and they completely suspended his account, and without even. And I saw the screenshot they were passing around. It really didn't say why, other than it doesn't fit our standards. I was like, well, what standards are you talking about? The ones we agreed to when we signed up, or
Yeah.
the ones you
Well,
created
that's just it.
yesterday?
The standards, I think, are a moving target, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh
the
God.
standards aren't well defined, and they're just kind of at what somebody thinks. And the
Uh
people
huh.
doing the content moderation for these companies aren't in the United States; they're in other countries because they're using low wage labor to
Yeah.
do a lot of this stuff. So, I think going forward, there should be some legislation on how these companies are run, and we come to this whole Section 230 thing, which basically says that Twitter and Facebook and all these places get a pass for being a platform. They
Yeah.
basically say they're a town square, so they're not responsible for the content that gets posted on the bulletin board in the town square. But now I think by Amazon kicking Parler off their services, I think now Amazon it basically has come out and said they're no longer a town square, and yes, they are responsible for the content that gets posted on their bulletin board. So that means they are a publisher, and
Yeah.
therefore responsible, right? So
Right.
this is a fundamental shift, and this Section 230 is what let these companies grow to such large proportions in the
Yeah.
first place. But it'll be really interesting to see where we
Well,
go with this now. Coming in with the Democratic, regime, we'll call it.
yeah.
I don't think they'll get regulated until the next administration. But certainly
Well,
something needs to happen.
go back to a second when you said that this Article 230 allowed these companies, these big tech companies, get so big. What's ironic about their growth? It's because of Trump. Trump is the reason they've grown, especially Twitter. People went to Twitter to watch and listen to Trump because that's where his mainstream of public communication was. That's how he reached out to the public. And it's because of his antics, and I posted this on LinkedIn, his uncouth rhetoric is the reason that they are so big. People wanted to see so they could get mad or so they could get excited. They wanted to feel those emotions so they could lash back out or they could provide their support and say, yeah, he's saying it. He's a multi-billionaire. I agree with him. Or he's a jerk and I don't agree with him. But that's what's boggling my mind. It's like, did you guys just exploit Trump until you realized he was done? And once he's no longer president, what's the point? Let's get rid of him. Because I don't think if his rhetoric was that big of a deal, they'd have taken him out a long time ago. I think he just no longer serves their purpose, and it's on to the next one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's this whole thing though is just it's really disturbing, right? Because
Oh,
I mean, again, there's no good rules. We're not all playing from the same board
no.
here. I mean, if Amazon's going to kick Parler off, then they need to go kick a whole bunch of other people off, like Twitter.
Well, especially
And
Twitter. I've seen some nasty crap on Twitter that I don't even see on Facebook. It's like I don't know which emotion I want to go with today, the Twitter emotions or the Facebook emotions. Like where do I see my mental health going at today? Because they're both equally upsetting. And that's why I've jumped on LinkedIn a lot more here to try and mellow out from the mainstream madness is what it's turned
yeah.
into.
Well,
It's
it'll certainly be interesting to see, where things go with Twitter and Facebook and all these social media giants.
yeah,
Because I mean, certainly the landscape is changing, and people are much more aware of how much power they really have.
yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't like that. So I think you're going to see a much more splintered landscape as far as social media platforms go. And I think we're going to be divided just like we are in the real world. I think we're going to be divided on our social media platforms.
Yeah, unfortunately so, and that's really sad because we could all just agree to disagree and live life together, but that doesn't seem to be the way that the mainstream media wants us to live.
Yeah, and so to segue into the next article here, so did you know that Elon Musk and the Zuck were not liking each other? They're kind of bitter enemies here apparently,
Considering
and
what I know about each one, that doesn't surprise me in the least. I'd have pegged them for frenemies.
frenemies. Yeah. So there's an article here I'm going to bring up. Elon Musk made a jab at Facebook, linking the rampage at the Capitol to the social network. And it's the latest insult in the years long feud between Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. And apparently, this all goes back to a satellite that got destroyed when one of Musk's rockets, had a failed launch, and then the satellite that was on it was a Facebook satellite that was going to bring internet to rural areas, and so
Oh boy.
Elon Musk was kind of like, well, they had that we gave him a free launch out of the deal, and they had some insurance, so basically he was like, they got
Suck
their
it up.
losses covered, suck it up, and apparently Zuckerberg's still pissed about it or something. So
You mean
they
so Elon took away Zuckerberg's toy ship? Is that what you're trying to tell us? And
pretty
now,
much. But apparently, there's no lost love between Elon Musk and Zuckerberg, and
I'm
they've been feuding
so
since
relieved.
2016 when this rocket accident occurred. And they've been going back and forth on artificial intelligence and collecting data from Facebook and those sorts of things. So,
Did you ever think that for one moment that one of the top stories in the news would be the rocket nerd versus the computer nerd?
right? I mean, yeah. I mean, this is you couldn't write these headlines, if
I
you had
mean,
to.
even
I
Jerry
mean,
Springer's like, nobody's gonna buy that. That's ridiculous. Like,
but let's fantasize
oh,
here a little bit, right? You've got Elon Musk who doesn't like Zuckerberg. You've got
mhm.
Trump who doesn't like any of the social media giants, right? And you've
Yep.
got Trump and you got Trump and Musk both with a bunch of cash, So I
Yep.
mean, it's entirely plausible that the two of them could get together and really change the digital landscape.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is, remember, Musk just moved to Texas because he got fed up with California. So
Moved his
he,
entire company to Texas.
company and his houses, and
Yeah,
yeah, so
whole
he's
bit.
fully integrated now.
Well, and after after Schwarzenegger's little speech, I'm sure he's not sorry about it one dang bit. I'm sure that just added fuel to the fire on that one. So it. It's how I can't even. um, God, get back on track because I'm going to lose track. This is just
Yeah, I mean, it's
it just
just
dumbfounds me. It just dumbfounds me, like for
yeah,
reals.
lots of crazy stuff. I mean, I think in the next 4 years, we're definitely up for some things that that we are going to consider normal that we wouldn't have considered normal just a couple years ago, right?
Right. And that new normal thing. And I don't know if the media, if we could just hold the media accountable, maybe we'll reach to a certain comfort level that we used to know. But I think the media's got a big part in all of these shenanigans that are currently taking place.
Yeah, and
Um,
but I don't think that there's any incentive for them really to change, right? I mean, there's no laws that have been changed. There's no financial incentive for them to change. I think we're going to get more of the same from the media. I would say probably the only thing we're going to have is more choices in where we consume our media from, and that'll be a good
hope
thing.
so. Hope so. I mean, I'm not saying Fox is the best, but at least I can hear both sides. They're at least putting the positive and the negative, or dual sides, or more than one perspective out there for us to see. Whereas the other outlets, I don't see them doing that, and that worries me. It's like, why can't you expose me to other perspectives than the one you're pushing? What's wrong with me that you don't trust me to follow a story? Like, I can't make my own decisions for myself, so it's and I guess what's really sad is not so much that they don't trust me, is that so many people are feeding into it. There is the term sheep is not a popular term right now, but it's a group think is what's taking place out there, and it's scary. It
Well,
is
but
just
we've
scary.
talked about this before, right? I don't think
Yeah.
that it's journalism if you're presenting an opinion.
No, I
If it's
agree.
journalism, you have to present both sides of the story, and you have to the reader has to leave that article or that news segment not really knowing what the presenter feels politically, right? Because
Right.
you should present both sides of the story in a light that doesn't, sway you one way or the other.
Right.
That being said, I completely feel like it's fair to have opinion pieces, but I think they should be pretty clear that they're opinion pieces. I mean, I think we ought to go as far as to require people to say in the title that it's an opinion or mark it somehow that
Yeah.
it's an opinion piece because we have a lot of people trying to pass journalism off it's actually just opinion.
Well, it's just like back in all of my master level courses in my undergrad course, any of my courses in college, and even some in high school, I had to cite my sources, prove where you got that information from. And I think that should be the standard today. Prove where you got that from. If you can't prove it, then if it can't be validated, then you can't use it. That's where, and I don't care, especially all these anonymous resources and sources say all that BS. You can say that anytime because some homeless person off the street has said, "I've had this vision. I'd like to see this," and it becomes newsworthy material. No, it should be cited. If you can't cite it, don't use it. If you want
Yeah,
credibility,
I certainly think there needs to be some journalism standards, but sadly, I don't think we've got any coming very soon. I think we'll get there
no.
eventually, but I think right now we're just hoping for something that's not coming very quick,
Oh,
Um,
just that's what they
but
invented alcohol for, Chris, is so that we could tolerate the BS until it's no longer BS. That's why alcoholism is a thing, because BS
and
lives a
then
little
and on that
better.
note, we are not condoning alcoholism or consumption of alcohol to drown your pains or anything
No,
on
but
this
several
show at
people
all.
out there shook their heads in agreement with me. Yes, Tara, that's exactly right. We can moderate it, but we ain't happy with stuff.
Yeah, well, to avoid the rest of the
Oh.
show being a giant disclaimer, so we don't get our butts in trouble, let's talk a little bit about how the wonderful coronavirus is reshaping America's job market. So I have an article here from I don't know where it's from. The 50. It's from Politico.com, and it's saying about 1 in 3 people were either working in a different job in September than they were in February, or they were unemployed. And so, I mean, this is everybody knows this has had huge impacts on our economy.
Yeah.
But I really don't think people understand the extent to how crazy this really is.
No, I don't think they do either. I think it's overplayed. I think we overdid this pandemic just way too much. I think if the media had stayed out of this one, the doctors could have handled it just fine. Because of the decisions that were made, I'm tired of them blaming Corona. Humans made the decisions that put the economy where it's at. We made these
Right.
decisions and we enforced them and we encouraged them and we executed them. So that's the first thing I'm going to put out there. And I'm not sorry to say that one out loud at all. But because of what's happened, people have had to redesign their career paths or change their workspaces completely and entirely. I know I'm working remote full time until further notice, and I know a lot of people are, and it's causing a lot of issues that way. But this says, and some people are even they're still not working since being laid off or being let go or since their business is closed. There's some people who still are not working and are drawing unemployment. I know a couple of people whose unemployment has somehow ended. I don't know all the if, ands, or buts to that, but it's it, we need to take responsibility for this one too. I think we did this to ourselves to a certain degree, but our economy took a hell of a hit because of all these shenanigans, for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the effects of this lockdown and this coronavirus pandemic are going to be not really known for the next several years. I mean, we know that all sorts of social measures have just, skyrocketed in the wrong direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't
Oh
think
yeah.
we're really going to know the effects of that for years to come. And then you have all of the anxiety that's going to be, that are in our kids that are, middle school and high school, even elementary kids. I mean, they're going to have anxiety about this for for at least a generation, right?
Well, just
So
they've got it now. Just even I became sick with a cold, and I get sick with a cold every year. It turns into laryngitis, and I'll have laryngitis multiple times a year. And everybody's like, "Oh my God, you have COVID." No, I don't. COVID's not the only thing out there. Oh my God, are you sure? Go get a test. No, I don't have COVID. It's a cold. I know a cold. I've had COVID. I would still rather have COVID over H1N1. But there's such anxiety like, oh my God, don't touch me. Don't come near me. You have COVID. I don't have COVID. Like it's even starting now where everybody's panicked that every illness out there is COVID. There's still other things out there, but we have lost sight of the bigger medical picture because of this. And now people are, and
did
so
you
the
see
panic
that
is,
car?
it's already started.
Did you see that cartoon? The guy's like laying on the sidewalk and he's bleeding out, and there's two cops there, and he said, "Yeah, he died of coronavirus, and he was a bank robber that the cop shot."
No, but I believe it because that's the current trend. So
Yeah, I
it's
mean, it seems like basically everybody's got corona, in some way or
well,
shape, but
right. And it's people. That's what's funny is when my kids first went back to school, I immediately got a call from the school saying, "Hey, just want to call and let you know we've already had influenza A and B, and so just keep an eye out." It's like, oh, those things still exist. They're like, oh yeah, they're hitting hard right now, but we still have to test for corona. It's like, oh, good gracious. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. I have allergies on top of it. And this is one of our listeners just popped in there. Robin says, try having your allergies all year round. I have allergies all year round. And I'm never more afraid to cough out in public than I am right now because I don't want people looking at me like I have like the death ray coming out of my body. Like, oh my God, it's almost like it's like being segregated. It's like you're a big, ugly sore thumb out in the middle of public as soon as you start to cough or sniffle. And I was sniffling at a funeral today only because it was cold outside and there were several of us sniffling. But oh my gosh, it was, oh, man, it's such a pain. It's just all the panic around it, all the, you've got COVID, how did you get COVID? It's like, it's not COVID, folks. There's so many other things out there.
yeah.
I can go on forever.
So
And what's,
we're running
go
kind of
ahead.
long, so let's
We
let
always run long.
I know, but we're running really long tonight because of all the news segment here. But I did want to talk to. I've got a couple of fun ones in here that we can talk
Yeah.
about. This one here is 10 eerie ghost towns that made that and the disasters that made them, and it's
What?
kind of makes me want to do a road trip for some of these because one of these that I think was down in Oklahoma wasn't too far from us. So
Do what? Come again? Which is this the abandoned towns or which one are you talking about?
So these are. Let's scroll down here a little
Where
bit.
you at?
There's a place in
10 area
Nambia
testing.
that's swallowed by sand.
Whoa, like a sandstorm or what?
Well, apparently, this town was made because the sand was there because they were. I don't know what they were doing with the sand, but then the sand basically took the town over. You can go read the whole article.
Whoa.
Um, I guess it was they found diamonds in the sand, and then they were mining the diamonds, and then the diamonds kind of ran out. Now the sand is just taking over the town. So
Oh, wow.
I thought these were kind of right up your alley. I've heard of this place before. There's a place in Pennsylvania that's on fire underground. It was an old coal mine, and the coal mine
What?
caught on fire. And apparently, the surface temperatures got so hot that people had to basically move out. So there's a abandoned
Wow.
town in Pennsylvania, and there's let's see, Times Beach, Missouri. I'd never heard of this one, but
Haven't either.
they accidentally poisoned. I guess the water supply, I think, is what it was.
Poisoned by
Oh
city
no, they
officials.
put waste oil on the dirt roads to keep the dust down. The waste oil had bad stuff in it. Yeah, and then Bob's your uncle. Australia, asbestos poisoning.
Oh,
Um,
my word.
Japan, they had a coal mine island, a little island that was coal mining, and then it was abandoned. Let's see here.
Oh, my
Norway, they
gosh.
had a crash, an airplane crash, apparently, and there was an economic crash, and then a
A
plane
plane
crash with
crash.
most of the residents from this town on it, and then they basically just closed the town up after that. Is
Oh,
what I remember that
wow.
one. So, oh yeah, here we go. Pitcher, Oklahoma, poisoned by lead and destroyed by a tornado, which is like, doesn't that sound like the most Midwestern thing ever?
That
You
is
know.
so Midwestern. That's right up our alley.
But yeah, we should definitely go check this place out. And
Oh my
I don't
gosh, it's
even know
probably
if you
not that
can.
far.
Yeah, I didn't even know if you can get in it or what you can see.
That'd
But
be
I
interesting.
think it'd be kind of interesting to go see. There's another place here, smothered by volcanic ash, which France, raised by Nazis, left as a memorial. Um, I think that's
Chernobyl. I'm familiar with Chernobyl. I
Chernobyl.
think we
Yeah,
all are.
we've all heard of Chernobyl, which apparently I guess there's a lot of stuff growing there now. So
Yeah.
there was a show that talked about all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that
Amazing.
kind of fun stuff here to look at. And then the last article I had was this is a good feel good story here. We'll bring this up. And it was on Fox News. It was a couple in Maine donated thousands to the supermarket staff after winning 1 million in lottery on scratch-off
This is a
tickets.
real B&H
So this
customer
was a
story.
pretty cool
Jack and Barb
story
with
here.
professional wildlife.
Feel good story kind of thing. So, but yeah, apparently they won. They won some tickets here. They won 1 million and some tickets, and then they decided to give it back to some people in the community that they knew. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Huh. That is pretty cool. I'll be darned.
Well, with that, we've kind of run through the rest of the news. Is there anything else? Did I cut you off? It.
No, I'm trying to keep up. It's like there's all these different towns and then $1 million scratch off lottery ticket. Like, well, that's how you cap that off.
I
There's a
always
way to
like
do
to end
it.
the
Plus,
news
I'm
on a
trying to
good
keep up
note,
with
right?
audience. So we've got somebody who's been to Times Beach. She needs to come up on the show and tell us what Times Beach is all about since she's been there. I'd never heard of it. Um, yeah, I'll have to respond to these here in a little bit because there's a lot of questions that came through. But
Yeah,
um,
that's the kind of place I just want to take my camera for a weekend and just kind of
your
roam
drone,
around
it's
and
what you want to do is take
yeah,
your
take
drone
my
out to these
drone down there.
places.
We could do a remote show from the abandoned whatever down there. That would be kind
Yeah,
of
we
cool.
could. That'd be awesome. That'd be very cool.
Until it's like lunchtime, we're like, oh, let's go to McDonald's, and then we show up to McDonald's and there's nobody there.
Right. Oh, we better pack a lunch. Well, what do you think? You want to go over to a career workout?
Let's do the workout.
This. It's time to work that career and lift and push and lift and push. You got it. Now harder. Lift and push. It's the career workout.
Well, it definitely helps when you hit the right button and play the right intro.
I can't
I know
hear
you
him,
can't
so I
see
can't
him.
correct you. I'm just going to pretend that you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, everybody watching is like, what is he doing there? He's just getting button happy.
That's funny. I can't hear any of it. I wish I could hear it because I would totally give you crap about it.
Yeah,
That's
that's
when
all
they,
right.
hey, audience, you need to let me know when he's playing the wrong stuff at the wrong time because I am immune to hearing it. Help me out. Okay, so on this career workout, I found something that's 10 things you can do to improve your career today. This is from workitdaily.com. It's a new website that I found. It seems pretty cool. Now, they offer 10 things. I'm not going to go into all 10 things. It's a little teaser to get you to go on here and check it out. But if you're looking to take charge of your career, and you should, because despite what your manager may tell you, your leadership supervisors, whoever, um, nobody else is in charge of your career but you. Some people may have influence over and may have a little bit of power as to how fast you move, but ultimately, it's really on you to get out what you put into it. And so, starting with the number one item on the list is set small goals regularly. The reason for this is if you set small goals regularly, one, they're easy to attain. They're supposed to be regular daily goals. That's a feeling of productivity and a feeling of accomplishment. Two, it sets up the standard for momentum. If you're used to accomplishing goals every day, you are less likely to sit around and feel lazy or kind of wonder what you're supposed to be doing. And so these goals could be anything that they need to be regarding your work. If it's talking to your manager about tasks you want to be doing, or setting the goal to meet two new people, every day, whatever it is, your job, your workspace, be it on site or remote. Put some goals in for yourself that you can accomplish, or at least come close to accomplishing to. It's always okay to not accomplish your goals, but at least strive for them. Um, and again, these are achievable goals. These are not outrageous, let's go meet the VP, become best friends type of goals. This is easy to accomplish, easy to attain, just to give you a sense of momentum and feel good ship. Stretch yourself. This isn't about getting up and stretching your arms out, or doing a downward dog yoga pose in the middle of the day at work. This is challenging yourself. Figure out what your comfort zone is, and then try to move beyond that. Figure out what you're good at, and then work on the things you are not good at. And you can kind of identify these things when you think about your interview process. The interviewer will always ask you, what are your weaknesses? These are the things you want to work on. If you're not very good with finances, try to get better at that if that is going to help you improve at your job. If you're not good at public speaking, then practice it. Figure out how to get better at it, so that, especially if it's going to work for your job, giving presentations, if you don't like to talk in front of a small crowd, or just to facilitate a meeting as the meeting organizer, figure out what you need to do to stretch beyond your comfort zone and get a little bit better at the things you're doing every day. Get feedback. Nobody likes this one. Nobody likes to get feedback because nobody wants to hear anything negative about themselves. They want to hear all good stuff. They want to have their egos rubbed up on, and they want to be loved on, and they don't want to hear anything negative. And that doesn't do you any good. Negative feedback doesn't mean you're a bad person. There are things that you can work on. Negative feedback is more about hopefully identifying your weaknesses from somebody else's point of view. And multiple perspectives are always great to have. You're going to have the occasional manager, leadership, somebody up above you that's looking to keep you down. I know I've had one of them, and you need to be able to find feedback from somebody else that can help you. So that's what feedback is about, is getting better. The other one I wanted to focus on, we're going to jump down the line about here. Be curious about your industry. I know I entered into an industry I know absolutely jack about. And when I say jack, I mean the only thing I knew about aviation is that a plane is in the air somehow. I don't know how it got there. I just know it stays up there, and it's supposed to stay up there. I also know it's not supposed to be on the ground unless it's supposed to be on the ground. And so I've been able to ask a lot of questions, a lot of clarifying questions, at the risk of looking incredibly stupid. And Chris has heard me ask some doozies, I'm sure. But you want to be curious about your industry. If you don't know everything about it, find out more about it. And even if you do think you know everything about it, find out more about it. Always be curious about where you are at. The last one I'm going to touch base on is read. This is everybody's favorite fear, is reading. I don't like reading. I don't want to read. Oh yeah, well, you're reading stuff all the time on the internet, so shush. But read something that can help you improve at your work. If it's reading self-development books, I'm a big Simon Sinek fan, so I read his stuff pretty frequently. Or if it's, I can't think of any other authors other than myself, so a little bit of shameless plug there. But find stuff to read that'll help you improve at your job and improve upon your weaknesses and even build upon your strengths. Because when it's about self-education and self-teaching and self-learning. You can't rely on everybody else to teach you. You can't rely on everybody else to tell you what you need to do. You need to take an introspective look and realize what you need to do to get better and push your career to the next level. You cannot rely on somebody to say, oh, hey, you look like you'd be really good at this. Let me just hand this promotion to you with no work from your part at all. It's not how the real world works. That's why you're ticked off at so many people who are up in positions that are higher than yours or are getting promoted. They're doing something about themselves. But that's just a few tips from the article. There's 10 of them. Go check them out if you're interested in bettering yourself at your career. But Chris, what do you think? I'm sure you can identify with a few of those, or saw some other ones you can identify with.
Yeah, I think those are all great suggestions there. I mean, I think the big takeaway for me is really just to be intentional about your career.
Yes.
And you can certainly do a lot of things at work that would hurt your career. So being cognizant of that. But yeah, I think it's really just about being intentional about it
Yes.
and working on it, right? I mean, it's not something you just okay, you got a job and you show up and then expect to be promoted, right? And I mean, if you're going to go climb the corporate ladder, it takes a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people
Patience. Yes.
discount how much work and time and effort it does actually take to one, become better at your job so that you'll get promoted to a different job, right? Which I think is
Right.
critical. And then two, the networking that's required, not only networking within, people within your functional area or maybe the group that you work in, but across different areas. So,
Right.
if you're in accounting, get to know people in contracts, get to know people in the legal department, get to know the marketing department, and those sorts of things. So I think the people that are going to be more promotable, and especially in the corporate environment, are those ones that have that large networking base. Basically they can get things done because as you climb the ladder, one of the things that makes you unique in climbing the ladder is being able to get things done. And
Yes.
oftentimes that means calling up somebody in a different department and being like, and using your personal relationship with that person to get something done. Right. And I
Yep.
think a lot of people discount that networking. And that's why, during this whole Corona thing, that's why this is so difficult with, a lot of us being stuck at home. It's really hard to network. The corporations are not having, events for their employees where they
Right.
can socialize and those sorts of things. So, those things are all really, really, really important.
I agree. In networking, you can still network. You just have to be able to network remotely. You just need to get comfortable being in front of that camera with somebody, even if you don't know them. It's
Oh,
you can do
I'm
it.
I'm networking. It's just my network is a network cable, not actually
There you
building
go.
relationships with people. It's moving bits and data in and out of my computer. That's the
Right.
kind of networking I'm doing during this whole pandemic, and it's driving me kind of bonkers actually. But yeah, wish we had more opportunities to work with people. And I think a lot of times when you network, it's not so much about calling somebody up on a video call, but you may be talking to somebody and they may say, oh, well, go talk to this person over here, so social connections that are really, really hard to make when you're at home, just
Hmm.
sitting behind your video conference solution. So,
Yep.
yeah, I think, it's hard to network during the Corona thing, but in general, I mean, someday this whole pandemic thing will be over and we'll be back to being on site, hopefully.
Yep. We will be.
Definitely be intentional about your career. But the other piece of advice I'll give is, when I first started, my career, if you had asked me what my career was look like, I would have drawn this nice, neat little line, right? And I'm going to start here, and I'm going to go to here, and I'm going to
It's
go to
not how
here,
it
and I'm going to go to
works.
here. And in reality, if I had given a 3-year-old a crayon and said, "Draw me the most crazy mess of spaghetti you can draw," that probably looks a little more accurate to what
Right.
actually happened in my career so far, right? So, I think wanting to grow in your career is good, but don't hold yourself down or don't get down on yourself if your career doesn't exactly go as planned either. That was
Right.
another point that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, because the career we think we want may not be the career we end up with. Sometimes we don't understand what we want. We don't know how to voice it properly.
Yeah, and I think
So,
it's worth noting too that advancing in your career is not solely about your abilities, right? I think
hmm
it's true on the lower rungs of careers, but as you grow and get higher up on the ladder, so to speak, I think the things that promote you are somewhat skill related, but I think it's also how well you socialize, how well you
Yep.
network, and not and somebody can have fantastic skills in those areas and still not advance, because I still think that part of your growing in your career is being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
So it's timing, and that's not always something that you can control either,
Right.
right? And I still
Right.
think, and you're going to think this is stupid, but there's, I think, a little bit of luck that's involved with advancing in your career too. So, I mean, I think it's that combination of skills and timing and luck that makes people advance.
Well, thinking about that luck factor, if you think about going back to your being intentional, along with being intentional, is just being a genuine version of yourself, because that's where that luck comes into play. You being genuine happens to cross paths with the person that appreciates that genuineness that you're offering. And it makes them think, hey, you know what? While they may not be the person who's got the technical background for this, they're the person who can lead these people to the next stage up. So I think that luck can be easily translated into just being genuine and crossing paths with the right person, and that's you get recognized that way.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, and I think it's also worth saying that the career path for one person is not going to be the same as another, right?
No,
There
yeah,
are
don't
no two
compare career
identical
paths.
career paths there. So, yeah, I think
Because I mean, I started off as a single, or not. I started off my career as a stay-at-home mom. That's where my career started at. So I wasn't sure where I was going to go, but
well,
it's
to be fair, it's easy to promote yourself when you're a single mom and you're head of the household, right? Because you're automatically at the top.
yeah, but there's a desire to feel like you're part of something bigger too. So you had to, it was scary to start back out into the workforce when I had to do it, but it's everybody's got their niches somewhere, and you got to find out where they're at and what feels good and what comes naturally. You know what I mean? And where you can be your genuine self and not worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's worth noting too that, anytime you're going to advance is going to be a little bit of a risk, and it should feel a little bit uncomfortable, right? And that's
Yes.
how you grow.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to feel uncomfortable. You got to get that stretching yourself, going past your comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah,
I
you've got to leave
agree.
that comfort zone in order to grow. So,
Yes.
yeah, I think
It's
great
good for you.
article. It's got a lot of good advice, lots to
Yeah.
unpack, and definitely something to think about during these times in coronavirus when we've got lots of movement in the career sector, and
Yeah.
maybe some opportunities opening up because of that.
I agree. I agree. What about career failure? What do we got?
Career fail of the week.
All right, so for career failure, I've got an article here.
Was that a
Sorry.
transition? I can't hear it.
Yeah, that was a transition.
I
So
needed some sort of like a little alert or like
I'm
baseball
just gonna have to hold something up so you can see it.
career, like little career failure. Yeah. What's on the books for career fail this
So
week?
what's on the books for career fail? I've got an article here that is Whole Foods CEO John Mackey, how to devastate employee morale in a single blow. Bow. I was going to say bow. Single blow. And he's got some good advice here, and he talks mainly about when he goes to visit the Whole Foods stores. And basically what he does when he visits a store is that, if somebody comes up and says there's something wrong to him, then some CEOs will stop everything and try and address it right there, and
Yeah.
he'll pull the manager aside and discuss it later. But he basically he's very intentional about what his role is as a CEO and how the employees should perceive him. And I really like his style because, he's basically like, hey, the employees look up to me. And if I'm mad or I'm irrational around them, and we're, to be clear, we're talking about a CEO that's in a grocery store and the employees that work in a grocery store. So you're talking the very top of the corporate ladder versus
Food
the
chain.
bottom of it, right? But his thing is he's there to basically act a certain way, right?
Right.
I think he makes a good point that there's a time and a place that's appropriate to deal with different things, right?
Yeah.
And so he's really conscious about not destroying the employee morale, in the stores because of the way that he acts. And I thought that was a really good message to put out there.
Yeah. I think that is. I think that's CEOs unfortunately are held up to certain um, fantastical stigma. It's something that's been made up, and it's kind of been trailblazed by some other CEOs out there who think they're better than those that are starting at the bottom. I have a CEO in mind who believes that all of his staff are replaceable, so he treats them as replaceable entities in his business. And it's really not, the morale that the company has received that message from him. So they don't want any part of him. When he's around, they get all stiffed, their bodies go real stiff. They get really anxious and they don't want to talk to him because this is this guy. And if you talk to him the wrong way, he's liable to fire you because he doesn't care if you're here or not. He just wants the work done.
Right. Yep.
Whereas another CEO for companies to work for, you would never know he was a C-level executive because he would hit the bars with the rest of the employees after 5. And let's be real, it wasn't after 5, it was like after 3. But as long as Friday after 3, your work was done, you had nothing else to do, there was a space that was kind of reserved for this particular group. And he'd show up and he'd pay the tab for everybody. Kind of,
Right.
no, he didn't want to talk work. He just wanted to make friends and be cool. And it was really neat because you could see how he compartmentalized work with work. But he was the same dude. He was still genuine. He was still fresh. He was still outgoing. And you would never know he was C-level material. And you didn't get real, stiff around him. You didn't panic when you saw him. You're like, oh, hey, there's so-and-so. And I'm not going to use names because people know where I've worked in the past. But they would say, here, there's so-and-so, and he's cool. We can hang out with him. And he knew you by first name. Whereas this other stiff shirt dude was like, do you even work here? Like, what do you do exactly? It's like, well, I'm the teller that's been taking care of business for like 4 years for you. Those kinds of things.
Have you ever watched the Undercover Boss show there, the TV show?
I don't think so.
Oh, you've got to go watch Undercover Boss, but it's where, CEOs or executives and companies will take a low, a bottom of the rung position, and they'll put makeup and wigs on so they can't be recognized, and then they'll go work for a day. And the one that I'm thinking of was a CEO, and I don't remember exactly what the company did, but they had a call center, and the CEO ended up being a trainee in the call center.
No.
And he ended up uncovering quite a few problems that the call center people were having that the management just weren't doing anything about,
Right.
and then it kind of, he kind of early cut it short and revealed that he was the CEO early. And then the gal that he was working with that was training him, but rightfully, she just freaked out, but they had a really good conversation about, hey, there's some very easily fixable things that are going on here, and why aren't they being fixed? And so I think it was good on both sides because those shows tend to open up the eyes of the CEO, certainly, and then they also open up the eyes of the regular workers too. So. But yeah, on this particular article, though, I wanted to bring it up and talk about. He specifically says that he can give 10 compliments, but one criticism will devastate the morale, and so that's the crux of the thing here. So he's really, he's really focused on sort of not giving negative attention when he's visiting the stores, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, I do too. I think you got to find the positive in the situation. That's good that he does that. That's not normal for a lot of people out there. The norm is like, let's go focus on a problem. Let's identify the problem. Let's have you guys explain to me why it is a problem versus I've seen this. You guys are doing this right about it. What do you guys think you can do to help improve it? Like there's a way to approach people with words that won't scare the dickens out of them. And most people are scared of the title anyway. It's not so much the man or the woman. It's the title CEO, CFO, CIO, that C-level executive or those upper management positions that scare the dickens out of people, and they're afraid to bring those things up. So it's great that he's going down there and making himself approachable, because that's what you really want from a C-level group or upper management, is to be approachable. It makes a difference.
I think that's a huge point here too, right? Is that when you become an executive, you're obviously making important decisions about the business, but you do have a certain responsibility back to the employees to be that person that people look up to. And I think we've seen lots of executives that haven't necessarily lived up to that in the news over the last several years. But I think that's making a comeback, hopefully, and I think it needs to make a comeback.
Well, and that's it's kind of where the coaching up and managing up is going to come into play. Is if you have the opportunity, if you've received that open invitation from your boss to provide that feedback, then great. Ooh, we're doing cartwheels over here. But if not, you might ask for that permission to to do that. I have been turned around.
I'm trying to make it so that you can see the TV that I can see, so you can see the transitions.
I can. Oh, I can't see you now.
You don't need to see me.
Clearly not. I can see the TV and I'm going to be happy. That's funny.
Well, we'll get that fixed for the next time.
Well, as we're talking about being genuine, folks, this is how you be absolutely genuine. Can they see that did you have me on screen only, or could they see that you were flipping me around?
They couldn't see that I was
Okay.
I was flipping the camera.
To be fair, I am not crazy. He turned me on and I could see him and he's flipping the camera around on me. It looked like I was doing a cartwheel virtually.
I don't know what you're taking over there, but you might want to back off of it a little bit.
It's just cough drops and teas. So I am not, don't even, I don't have witnesses, so I'm kind of SOL.
Here's the
doing it
webcam
again.
that you can see me with.
Tell me they can see that now.
No, they can see me. I'm going to put you up. Whatever's on this side over here.
What's on this side?
So
they can just see me. He's messing with me, folks. He's trying to make me sound nuts. He's trying to discredit me. I won't be discredited. I will have followership. I'm getting dizzy though. Holy crow. Man, if I had been drinking or something, that makes sense.
It's whatever you're taking for that thing you got, that COVID
Halls,
laryngitis you
right
got.
here. Halls.
Yeah.
Just a cough drop.
What are they putting in those? Are those the extra good Halls?
Throat. I wish. I've heard of CBD Halls, but I'm pretty sure that shows up on a drug test, and I'm not interested in having that conversation with work.
Yeah, that's probably not good.
That's not something I want to engage in.
You ready to do the IT corner?
What do you got on the IT corner?
All right.
Do your little ballpark.
Let's talk tech. You're in the IT corner.
And we're back. So
I'm gonna need you to do the YMCA thing next time,
I need a little sign or something. I'll just point that web camera at the TV next time you'll be able to see it. So this week on the IT corner, I bought a new wireless router for my house because we're doing this podcast and I wanted to be able to wire up to things so I get the fastest speed possible so we didn't have internet cutouts and dropouts and that kind of thing. So I went out and I bought the AX5400 dual band Wi-Fi 6 gaming router, PS5 compatible, mobile game mode, Asus Aura RGB, lifetime free internet security, mesh Wi-Fi support, gear accelerator, gaming port, adaptive QoS, and port forwarding. That is the official title of this thing.
That's the official title of it?
Well, that's the title.
That's the official title of it? Like, this is not an Amazon link. This is the official title.
No, that was on the Asus website. That's what they had
for the love
on their
of
website.
St. Croix.
So, talk about keyword stuffing there. I mean, they're just trying to get it all out there. But anyhow, I'll bring it up again. What this thing is it's a Wi-Fi router. So you plug it into your modem, and then it creates a network that you can connect to via Wi-Fi. It also has some network connections on the back, so you can hardwire things in. So what I ended up doing was hardwiring in most of my stuff here that we use for the podcast and the hardwire. That way we get faster speeds and less dropouts and things like that. But I got to say, I did have an old Apple router before this. And I will tell you, this thing is way faster than the old Apple router was. It is blazingly fast compared to the old one. But the thing I wanted to talk about was when I went to, looked online for things, and I finally said, well, I might as well just go to Best Buy and see what the heck they got. What's amazing is the variety of things that you can buy to do wireless routing. I mean, to make a network in your house, Best Buy had an entire aisle of this stuff, and it was like the differences between them. It didn't, one was $100 more, but you really couldn't tell what was worth $100 more, for it. So, when you're out there, just really be careful that you're not overspending, because these things went all the way from $100 all the way to $600. It was absolutely amazing at the price differences between them.
I should have been a computer nerd. Holy crow. So is it it's just a router. It's not a modem / router. It just does the routing.
Well, it's a wireless router, so you have to have a separate modem. So here we have cable internet. So you have a cable modem, and then the cable modem plugs into this thing, and then this thing makes the network in your house. So yeah, it's a separate piece of hardware. But
so much work.
It's designed for people that do gaming, and of course, I've got a son who's 14 who likes to do gaming, and so
that might be something I need to look into.
Yeah, but it is really amazing how fast it is. Wasn't too bad to set up. It was a little bit technical, but yeah, it's definitely the technology is changed quite a bit in the last couple of years.
You
And
mean it's difficult to set up? You mean if Bo comes over, is he going to get mad at me because I bought this stinking thing and made him install it? Like, how much am I going to owe Bo for this?
oh, you might owe them a couple of cans of pop. I know it wasn't that bad to set it up. I mean,
You
it,
s-
it pretty much worked out of the box, but there were some things that I wanted to customize, so it took a little bit for
ah,
that.
there it is. Oh, well, hey, if it works faster, I knew I need to get new equipment. So I hate to spend the money on that kind of thing. Though, so it's like, what's really the difference other than the fact that we have technical failures every time I turn on our podcast to go live. But I do have a gamer, and I have a gamer in the house. Then I've got a streamer in the house, and so they're constantly on. I'll be teaching before too long, so I'll be doing that kind of streaming. So it's probably something I do need to look into. So what is the? I mean, if besides gamers, who else is going to benefit from this?
Well, I think they advertise it as being better for gamers, but really any data that you're moving. So if you're watching TV on the Apple TVs, or you've got a smart TV that you're using Hulu or Netflix, that sort of thing. I mean, this thing will it's supposed to optimize the internet or the wireless network to be for faster speeds, locally. So,
Right.
I think, in my case, I went from some equipment that was over 5 years old to something that was, 2021. And it was a huge leap in speed is the point I was trying to make. So, I think a lot of
Right.
people out there, they buy a wireless router. These things work for a relatively long time. And then they're like, man, my internet's slow. Well, it might not be your internet. It may be your router in your house, which, your Cox or whoever your internet provider is, they have nothing to do with. So,
Right.
definitely worth checking into. And this was, I think, $269, if I remember right, 270, something like
So
that.
I just
So,
pulled it because on the link that you provided, there's a where to buy that's cleverly hidden in red text on a black background, and there's several different Asus, Amazon, Best Buy, looks like Better Homes and Gardens, but I'm pretty sure that's not what that means. Walmart. So I clicked on Amazon because we do everything through Amazon around here, and it looks like they're retailing it at just over $200, like $208. The list price there is it's like $21 off, but so they're selling it there. I don't know what Walmart is selling it for. Let me see what the
well, and
comparisons
there
are.
were
Where'd you
there
get it?
were
Best Buy?
well, I got mine at Best Buy, but it's with these routers. There's like several submodels of the main model, so
Yeah,
I think
I'm sure.
I didn't buy the bottom level one. I think I bought the mid one, which was a little bit more expensive. So
Ah,
you got to
there
really
you are.
watch when you're buying it. But yeah, I think it's so far it seems like it's working pretty good. But I just wanted to bring it up here just to let people know that hey, if your internet's slow, you may and you've got a router that's a couple years old, the technology's gotten a lot better. So it
Yeah.
might be worth the upgrade to you. I mean, I'm paying $100 a month for internet anyhow, so
Oh,
it's
I'm paying
worth
more than that.
yeah, it's worth having a good piece of equipment to get the speed that you're actually paying for. So.
Yeah, no joke. That's if I yeah, I'm gonna have to do it. Oh, I don't want to. I don't want to. I want to spend the
Well,
money on something
what I want
else.
to know
Like
is when you go out and buy one of these, and Bo looks at it and tells you what he thinks of it, or you have
he's
him
already
look at what you're
he
going to
already
buy.
he already sent me a link to a router modem combo, which is like almost $400. I'm like, just how much money do you think I'm made of, sir? Like, what? He's like, this is a pretty comparable price. I was like, I quit. I quit. I quit. I don't need the internet. I don't need technology. It's fine. I will find another way. It's great. It's perfect.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be spending some money. I don't want to spend it, but I will. Not happy.
Oh, don't be tight with the technology now. Technology is your friend. Wait,
Mm.
we're gonna get you a better webcam here at some point. Although it's not looking too bad tonight.
Well, I switched to the other computer, and that's probably why it's a little newer.
You mean it's newer than 10 years old, which is
I mean,
in computer world, that's like Indiana Jones. It belongs in a museum. Old.
you know what? That means it's gonna be worth a heck of a lot of money here soon. So I'm just gonna hold tight to it till I mean, let's be real. I'm gonna pass it off to my kid who's gonna go to college, and I'm gonna get a new one. But I'm gonna have to spend money to do that. There's got to be. I could spend that money at the spa or something and feel good for a day, or I could get a longevity. I mean, it's only be 2 years. That's all I'm gonna get out of it. And I have to buy another one. I disagree. I disagree. Where's the madness? It's all madness. It's like media madness.
Speaking of media madness, should we do that?
That's exactly why I segue to it. I want to get off the tech.
Here we go.
Welcome to Media Madness.
All right, so for Media Madness, I'll go first here. I've got I'll bring it up here. This is a show that I watched called Ted Lasso. Have you watched this at all?
I've not heard of it to have watched it. What is this?
So this is a show that is on Apple TV, and it was done for Apple. It was exclusively made for Apple TV. It's a series. It's one season long so far. I think it's 8 or 10 episodes, something like that. But I'll bring it back up here. But what this was is a Saturday Night Live skit from several years ago that got resurrected and made into a TV series.
Oh, how funny.
And what really caught my eye about it was when I first started watching this thing, they showed a coach from Wichita State, but they was coaching football. And obviously Wichita State doesn't have a football team because they had an accident several years ago. The team perished on an airplane crash, and they've never had a football team since. But the premise of this story is this football coach leaves Wichita State and goes over to England to coach the other kind of football, which is soccer. So he goes over to coach a soccer team without knowing anything about soccer. But it's a really great show because of his sort of style and how he deals with players and develops players and things like that. And he's one of these kinds of people that's like, it's like the people from Chick-fil-A that are always happy, right? He's always upbeat all the time and almost annoyingly upbeat, and
That's
so
funny.
it's but yeah, it's an interesting show. It's fun to watch. And I highly recommend it, especially for anybody that's in management. I think he's got a lot of really good takeaways of how he does things, whether they're real or not, because this is a TV show, right?
Yeah.
But certainly a good piece of entertainment. And again, this is another one of those shows where I just was like, I had to binge watch it. I had to.
That's the great thing about technology today. You can binge watch a lot of shows. Well, that's cool. I hadn't even heard of this sucker yet, so I'll have to go back and. How far is it? Like the first season? How far into it are they?
So yeah, first season is launched. They've gotten the green light to launch to film seasons 2 and 3. So there's going to be 3 seasons of this is greenlit so far. But interestingly enough, they greenlit the seasons pretty early on. I guess they had some really good response to it initially.
Nice.
So I'm not
That's
sure how
cool.
long it's been out there, but it's kind of interesting because he goes over to coach, soccer, football, right?
Yeah.
And doesn't know any of the rules, and they're all calling him a bad name that shouldn't be said on the air. But and eventually he kind of wins over the fans. He kind of wins over the players. And they have a pretty interesting season. So
Nice. Kind of a feel-good story.
yeah, it's definitely a feel-good story. I won't ruin any of it. There's a little bit of a plot twist in there where it's a little devious. But I won't ruin that because that's a pretty good spoiler. But definitely a good show if you're looking for something that's a little bit light and not, if you get tired of watching the news, shut the damn news off and go watch this thing. It'll cheer you up.
That sounds like a plan.
What
Excellent.
have you got?
What have I got? Well, I got this. It's a trailer that I'm offering. The movie is not yet released. It's due to be. I think it's going to be released on the 14th. So I think we're pretty close. But it's from DailyWire.com. If you're not familiar with Daily Wire, that is Ben Shapiro's home network, home area. I don't understand all the relationships there, but they recently moved to Nashville because they were not happy in California, as is the trend right now. And so Ben Shapiro is a facts don't care about your feelings kind of guy. He's a conservative. He's a Republican. And so what he and this Daily Wire company did together is they created this movie that they have been researching for years. It's called Run, Hide, Fight. And so if you have been paying attention at all in the past several years, or you're in law enforcement, you understand, or you're in academia, you know what those 3 words mean. It means you've got an active shooter on campus, and you either run from them, you hide from them, or you fight them, which is I always thought was kind of interesting that you would be encouraged to fight somebody. But when you're in an enclosed environment and you've got no other choice, fighting is kind of the that intrinsic feel to do anyways, to fight for your life. And so with this movie, from the trailer that I'm getting and the research I've done on it, is that the story is about a girl. She's with her dad. Mom died of cancer. Girl's having a hard time dealing with it. Dad recognizes that, and he's trying to help her navigate through her feelings. He teaches her how to shoot through hunting. So she's kind of developing this. She's taking her anger, and her dad's directing it towards hunting. So she's shooting animals, and it's in the spirit of hunting. And then all of a sudden, her school is taken over by several shooters. So it's almost like a siege upon the school by their own peer group. And she runs from them, she hides from them, she escapes the school, and then she gets several yards out before she realizes, I can make a difference. I can go back in there and save my friends or save people from the school. And so she goes back in, and it looks like, one of those movies that you'd see from Die Hard or Lethal Weapon. It's like an action-packed, like this girl is kicking ass and taking names, and she's outsmarting the school shooters. And so it's just I wasn't going to say it's a feel-good movie, but it takes this female heroine and puts her on the pedestal to say there is a chance of fighting, there is a chance of winning. You take what you know and you put it to use, and you kind of watch yourself as you go along the way. And it just looked like I've posted this on Facebook as this is the hero America's looking for right now,
Right.
where you've got that person who's like, I don't care what it costs me, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going back in there after those people regard. And what's crazy about that is they use social media in the movie. So as the school shooters come in and take over, they demand that anybody that has their cell phone pull it up, whatever social media you like to use the most, and put us on air right now. So it's gone on social media at the same time. So it's like a super impactful thing, and it's really bringing in all the aspects of being a teenager in the school. And this girl goes back in and is like, no, I'm going to take it on. And so it looks like she prevails in the end. I don't know how it ends, but here on the 14th, I'm going to have to take a look at it and see what it's all about and report back. But it was if you go watch the trailer for it, it makes you want to see it. It makes you want to see what's going to happen and how she does it. And it just looks like a really good show to watch. And so I'm eager to see it and see if it's really see what the research led to, what all their work resulted in. I think it'll be a really good show.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one there. Definitely have to wait for it to come out and see see what happens.
I agree. Agree.
Well, you ready to close us out here?
I mean, I can do it. Well, we thank you guys for listening to the Biz and Mayhem podcast. If you like the show, show us the love by posting a review on iTunes. And don't forget to send us a few bucks on Patreon or PayPal. We're going to love you forever because it's not free to bring the show to you guys. So we really appreciate the help and support. To get the show notes from tonight, head over to bizandmayhem.com. That's BIZANDMAYHEM.com and look for season 2, episode 23. You can also subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. So until next time, have some fun in the mayhem, guys. Have a good night.
All right. We'll see you later. Take care. The Biz and Mayhem podcast is produced by Check 6 Creative Studio. If you have a podcast or been wanting to start one, let us know. We'd love to help you produce and edit your podcast. We'd also love to work with your business on marketing and video production. Visit us on the web at check6studio.com. That's CheckSixStudio.com. Let us know you heard about us on the Biz and Mayhem podcast.